It's Daybreak on Arise News. Time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. We'll start with this day, and it says, PDP not built on any individual. No person can destabilize it. That's the chairman of the opposition political party. And the presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar of the PDP says he will ensure the NNPC Limited is fully privatized, and it's going to run on an NLNG model if he is elected in 2023. State varsity pro-chancellors descend on ASU over Osodeke's comment. And INEC says politicians see elections as war. It's a report. You can find it on page 28.
Now the nation says PDP crisis, setback for Atiku Wike reconciliation. Two riders there. Atiku's men rally party organs for Chairman Ayu. Something will happen soon, says Rivers Governor Wike. Votes for capital projects unlikely. Budget 2023, says Finance Minister. Federal government planned 19.76 trillion budget with 12.41 trillion deficit. ASU declares total indefinite strike. And just on the top mass, court declines government's request to extradite Abba Kyari to U.S. By the right side, I'm here for higher calling, says Tinubu.
The Punch newspaper this morning leading with the 19.76 trillion naira budget proposal. It says 12 trillion naira deficit worries federal government as debt may hit 54 trillion naira. If you're interested in that, on pages 2 and 17. And just below that, the leading photos on the front page of the Punch. Explosion near the RCCG camp, that's the Redeemed Christian Church of God camp, injures 2, raises trucks. Let's take a look at some headlines just beside the Punch. Court stops Kyari's U.S. extradition. Federal government reviews judgment. And above the nameplate this morning, 6 of 10 doctors live in Nigeria. That's the NAD lamenting. Wike vows to name candidates planning looting.
The Nation newspaper now. It says PDP crisis, setback for Atiku Wike reconciliation. ASU declares total indefinite strike. Okay, we've taken that before. The Guardian newspaper now, it says 2023 federal government to borrow 11 trillion naira, spend 3.36 trillion on subsidy. Ayu Wike continue war of words amid reconciliation talks, and the bandits force Niger magistrate courts to relocate.
Right, let's look at some international papers. We'll start with The Guardian. International Guardian. It says schools face closure chaos as costs soar, one tourist. And just to see that picture there, Pakistan flooding hits 1/3 of the entire country. And by the right of that, schools face closure. Home Office pays private firms to pick up migrants.
And one more international paper before we calling Emmanuel Bello. Let's take a look at The Independent. 2 leading headlines there on The Independent. Grounded, NASA cancels Artemis launch. The countdown for the New Moon rocket was stopped at 40 minutes in Cape Canaveral, Florida yesterday. And below that, mounting court chaos says sees criminals go free, warning that victims are dropping out over case backlog. And for the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello, who joins us from our offside studio. Emmanuel, good morning, and thanks for joining us. On this day newspaper this morning, so much to talk about. Its leading headline says, what the PDP, the opposition party national chairman, says. He says PDP is not built on any individual and no person can destabilize it. This is obviously a back and forth between himself and the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who also said at commissioning of one of his projects that something significant is about to happen at the PDP, and he's going to come out later when the time is right, as he always says, to tell us who he's backing for the presidential election and who is just making empty promises. And at that event, that was the PDP, also welcoming a new member to their party. So what angle do you want to take us on?
Well, good morning, Kechi. Welcome back. We didn't see you yesterday. Kenneth, Indy, another day,
morning,
another week story, and another weekend dimension to the stories we are covering. This day, I took it from a very interesting angle of what are you? He's saying we've not been hearing much from him. He's not somebody that has been talking too much, but he's getting the full blast of this report. With what he's saying, that the party is bigger than and you're right, Nkechi, that's his own swipe at, taking a swipe at those who say he should resign and those who say he should leave, especially Wike. It was a good outing for PDP yesterday, but they've taken a bite, a very good bite in the Kano votes with that big a defection or rather cross-carpeting that you had with the former governor Shekara, who is actually also a heavy hitter in the Kano politics, coming into the fold of the PDP. For the PDP and for their camp, I think that's a huge one. So they had a good day. It would have been a beautiful day, but Wike blunted it a little bit with his usual, grandstanding, if you wish, at this point, because that's what the best we can call it. It appears those London talks have not actually solved any problem. And our report yesterday, an exclusive report, showed that both the Tinubu camp and the Atiku camp are now wary of him, and it's almost like a lone ranger, like a lone wolf. And yesterday, seizing an opportunity again, one of those, his opportunities when he's commissioning project, and he's done a lot of those projects and done well. Yesterday, he was saying things like, "My people, nobody can come around you people without me. No one goeth to the rivers votes except me." But some people have argued that and say, "Look, even this current administration didn't get so much of those River State votes or Wike's support in the last elections, and Buhari still became president, so that Wike should not make too much of his importance or too much of his influence." But yesterday he was not saying that. He was saying, "Look, I hold the aces, and that very soon I'm going to talk." I think India and I will be very interested in knowing, just like the rest of the world, to know what is it that he's going to say. Say something will happen soon. Let us see what will happen soon.
Well, Emmanuel, still on this day, the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has been speaking. He was on the News Central TV earlier. He's not satisfied with how far NNPC has been privatized, saying he's going to fully privatize the company. And he says Nigeria should not be handed over to inexperienced hands.
Yes. Kenneth, I think that again, we're at that point now where the contestants will be taking swipe, in a very mature way at each other. I don't know who he's calling inexperienced, but he's saying that, look, he's tested and that he's done, he says that all the time, that he's a tested candidate and that he's not a try and error candidate. And he tries to speak to these issues. And he's got his time as vice president to show for at some of those campaigns. He said that, for instance, he has always favored the fact that NNPC should be privatized. But the government, at the time, turned back to say, look, he just wants to sell off the place to his friends. And he said yesterday that, look, well, now that government is trying to do some kind of privatization and it's not full, he said, well, that is what he wanted to do, but now they are coming through the back door to do it. So essentially, the same thing that they were accusing him of trying to do, they are trying to do it now. And according to him, they are not just doing it very well. They are copying his ideas according to him, but they can't paste them very well. So he is saying that, look, if he's given the opportunity, he knows how to transform NNPC to work almost like the LNG formats or project, where privatization will make for greater product. Right now, the crisis of deficit in our budgets and all the other economic crises are intrinsically tied with the fortunes of the oil sector. We're not getting much from oil production because of those thefts on one hand, and so because of those terrible refineries on the other hand. Atiku is saying that he's got the roadmap and the ways to change all of that so that the economy will look brighter.
So, still on the weakest stuff in the nation, PDP crisis, setback for Atiku, Wike reconciliation, that's on one hand. ASU declares total indefinite strike at a time that some state universities are opting out, and Oshodeke is saying he will punish them, and they are saying this is optional and things should be done better. Then, of course, court declines government's request to extradite Abba Kyari to the U.S.
Yeah, the very strong stories at the nation. I think the nation has a tendency of deepening those crises between Atiku and Wike, and maybe for some reasons, always reporting it. Because while other papers will try to look at the brighter side, the effort made for reconciliation, the Nation newspaper will continue to call it the PDP crisis, and will continue to call it setback. Yes, there are some setback, but also some grounds and Atiku seem to be making headways, rallying the base of his party, rallying the party around him, and had a good day yesterday. The Nation is not reporting any of that. Rather, it's still back on the issue of those reconciliation. I think the Nation newspaper seems to have an editorial policy that wants to favor that sort of reporting. But clearly, also those beautiful stories on the pages of the Nation newspaper, the issue of extradition, it's like a win for Abba Kyari. Remember, it was a Kyari thing earlier this year. We were all about himself and the hush puppy drama. But now the court case, winning one of the biggest court cases of his life, he's not going to be he's taken out for a lot of people have said that, look, that's where justice will happen if he's taken to the US. But then yesterday, the court saying that no, he should remain here and that he can be taken out. And of course, the ASU crisis, the ASU back and forth. Now also actually losing grounds because the state universities are practically pulling out. I think the Leadership newspaper is reporting clearly that at this point the state universities are pulling out and say that, look, it's not a must to be part of a union. And there are many of us, many Nigerians who are beginning to say that ASU is becoming counterproductive and that these strikes and all these these strikes are not really helping anyone. They've said the strikes are going to be indefinite. It seems as if education or the prioritizing the education of these students is not on the top list of what ASU is thinking about. But again, it's double whammy for everyone because it's government on one hand and ASU on the other hand, and of course the students in the middle.
Yes, Emmanuel, This Day newspaper is taking a look at what INEC is saying about the election come 2023. It's created an election communications crisis management team, and this comes as a result of what it says about the politicians and how they see the election. It says they see the election as war. And because of that, they've had to create this team to manage crises arising from the elections. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think an eye on INEC is very important. I think anything INEC says now or do, we should be reporting it because it's going to be the INEC's game going forward right after the campaign. So, and INEC need to be very unambiguous in what it's saying. They need to be very clear in what they are saying. And now they are saying that they are putting the blame right on the doorstep of the politician. INEC has always done that. They say, look, even when you talk about rigging election, INEC has always said, look, it's not our fault. We're just umpires. We're just there to moderate. It is the politicians. They're the one that have got the thugs. They're the one that rig elections. They're the one that, excite their base and try to cause problem. And now, INEC is going further by saying that politicians actually see these things as war. But INEC is saying that, well, they're trying to modernize it so that it doesn't look like some ancient wars that we fight in Africa or in some part of the world. But that now with modern tools, technology, best practices around the world, using technology, using clear-cut communication gadgets and all of that. INEC is trying to modernize elections so that you take it away from what looks like a barbarous or barbarians going at it and trying to just grab power. So it's the hope of INEC that if politicians want to go to war, they as INEC can actually moderate that and give us elections that are are very transparent elections that you and I can actually say, look, whoever wins this, it has actually won it correctly because it's backed by technology, by machine, by statistics, by facts on ground, by science, and not just by whims and caprices of warriors, politicians who want to just go to war and grab those ballot boxes. That those days are gone. We are going to have elections that are science-based, transparent, and elections that we can actually have faith in. So that if anybody wins any election going forward, you and I can say, yes, this person actually won this election because, there will be just this margin of error because of the technology that has been, put in place.
Emmanuel, in front of the Nation newspaper, the courts declined government's request to extradite the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, to the U.S.
Yeah, Ken, we just spoke on that and say, well, it's something that we has taxed on jurisprudence, and of course there are people who have said that again. Let's be more patriotic and be more nationalistic. But when you look at the the weight of evidence or the weight of the accusation against Abba Kyari, a lot of people feel that yes, justice will be best served outside here, untainted justice that you can have faith in. Just that is but over here, that probably a lot of other interests are going to come in and cloud up or cluster up the kind of justice that Nigerians expect to happen. So for yesterday, it was a good day for Abba Kyari, who is not going to be extradited, at least for now, with this court judgment. But people saying that, look, those offenses were grievous enough, and justice must be seen as done. A lot of people not having faith in the judiciary, which is sad, saying that they think it's better, that justice will be better served if it's taken elsewhere, and where, of course, it can be colored by any other interest other than just the delivery of justice. But he's going to be here, and now all eyes will be on the authorities to see what kind of justice Abba Kyari is able to get.
All right, Emmanuel, we'll leave it there. Your candidate trust says, wait until I am PM for cost of living plan.
Why are you calling her my candidate?
A pity we can handle that. All right, don't worry. We'll see what gives. Thank you so much. Emmanuel Bello there with the press preview. Let's hear your view on the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. You can join today's conversation using the hashtag AriseDaily.